Good morning and good morning, everyone. It is always an honor for me to introduce Lynette Rogers. She is the owner of Virtually Yours and the founder of Saving Our Youth, author of the number one best-selling book, Mission Unstoppable, with Les Brown and George Fraser. Good morning, Lynette.
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning to all the Momentum Monday movers and shakers. Welcome to Momentum Mondays. My name is Lynette Rogers, as she said, and I'm the co-host of this call designed to wake you up, shake you up, and take you up to new levels in your life, your career, business, and your dreams. So what is momentum? It propels you forward in life. Without it, success is difficult. Who is this Monday broadcast for? It's for everybody. If you're a stay-at-home parent, a 9-to-5er, a career professional, an entrepreneur in direct sales or in a traditional business, if you're a student or if you're in between jobs or reinventing yourself and waiting to receive your blessing, if you are a man or a woman, guess what? This broadcast was designed with you in mind. I'm pumped up today. I'm excited. It's a beautiful Monday morning, and I am excited to introduce a few of my amazing co-hosts. First up, Bishop Dickie Robbins. He is the pastor of Life in Christ Cathedral of Faith. He is the visionary of Dickie L. Robbins Ministries, chiming in from Chester, Pennsylvania. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, and good morning.
All right, turned up in Chester, Pennsylvania. I love it. And chiming in from Fort Wayne, Indiana, she is the founder of Fort Wayne Girls Rock and Girls Rock Summer Camps. Good morning, Danita Washington.
Good morning, Lynette Rogers and everyone on the call.
Awesome. Glad you are with us this morning. You heard her pumped up as usual, all the way live on a Monday morning, chiming in from Newark, Delaware. She is the founder of Michelle Marie Fashion Agency, and she's the visionary of Women of More campaign. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Lynette. I am living in my purpose on purpose. Woo!
All right. I love it. And last but certainly not least, she is a professional coach. She's a role model, mentor, leader, national speaker, vice president of human resources in corporate America, and she is the visionary behind this call. Chiming in from Louisville, Kentucky, good morning, Jill Green.
Good morning, and good morning. I'm intentional and leading on purpose in my purpose this morning. Let's go.
All right. Well, folks, we will be here every Monday morning to make sure your Mondays will never be the same. Please take a second right now and join our Momentum Monday Facebook group and join the discussion by making your comments or asking your questions. You can like a quote or something you hear, hashtag Momentum Mondays. If you're on the call, go to the group now and post hashtag I'm on the call. Well, I am pumped up. We are still in reading and navigating through the book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and we are tackling chapter 12. And this week, we are going to be discussing how the slight edge can be applied to our relationships, whether it is a personal relationship, a business relationship, whatever that looks like. We want to understand, how does the slight edge apply or affect our relationships? See, the basic premise of the slight edge is that small, simple things done consistently over an extended period of time leads to success. And those same small, simple things ignored consistently over a long period of time will lead to failure. And relationships are both built up and torn down in the most subtlest ways. And most people aren't even aware that the slight edge is in effect. So the progress of their relationship totally becomes a mystery. So I want to bring in my co-host on our conversation, and I want to ask Bishop, how does the slight edge affect our personal or business relationships? Bishop.
Well, thanks on that. The slight edge affects all of our relationships, and the tragedy is that we don't understand the significance of the small things that influence the success or failure of a relationship. It's like affirmation is a positive that will influence relationship. A little bit of affirmation over and over and over will inspire confidence and strength to relationship, but a small bit of neglect will have the opposite effect. It will begin to erode that relationship and cause its demise. Now, thinking about the fact that there's a 52% divorce rate in our country, there are some people who have discovered that nurturing a marriage, affirming the spouse, showing attention, showing affection, those things done a little bit every day will cause a strong bond. But a little bit of neglect, being too busy to have a conversation, not wanting to hear the successes or challenges of the spouse's day, those little things that equal neglect a little bit over a period of time will erode the relationship so much that that spouse will feel that their investment in the relationship is no longer worth it and ultimately can cause the demise of that relationship. But the same thing is true in our relationship with our children, relationship with our business partners or coworkers. So little slight edge principles which are applied over periods of time will determine the success or failure of a relationship. Lynette?
Wow, you really definitely hit the nail on the head. Bishop, my goodness, when you really think about it, this is the question that he answered. See, what makes a marriage or a friendship or other relationships grow richer over the years for one couple and grow stale, empty, and bitter for another? And what people don't realize is the slight edge principles in effect. Danita, let me bring you in on the conversation. How does the slight edge affect our relationships, or what can we do? And how can we make the slight edge work for us to build up our relationships? Danita.
Well, one of the things the slight edge has done for me is it has taught me the power of no and the art of my yes. I think so many times, I said yes to help someone else, but the yes hurt me. And so one of the principles that the slight edge helped me with is just balance. How to be happy but helpful and break some bad habits that are hurtful. The second thing in the relationship is the art of forgiveness and overcoming fear in relationships. I think, for me, learning to forgive someone that hurt me of my past. My divorce was a tough situation for me. I had been with him since the age of 15 up until 6 years ago, and I didn't know anything else. But I think, had I stayed bonded, these last 7 years would not have been, on purpose for me. And now I'm truly working in my gift because I was willing to be able to forgive. So I think so many times we are, kind of bonded by unforgiveness. And that's one of the things the Slight Edge talked about is getting past the forgiveness stage so that you can move into purpose. And the other thing is overcoming fear. I think, sometimes in relationships and business relationships and friendships, fear sets in and we don't know how to really be ourselves. And so one of the things that I've done is really, really fight my inner man to become who I am. So I am now waking up on purpose, and I'm learning to live and not just exist. And that's one of the Slight Edge principles. So I'm excited.
I love it. I love it. Jill, I know you're ready to chime in on this conversation. What are the specific things we can do to have the Slight Edge work for us in our relationship?
I love this book, and we have a lot of new people that are joining us for the very first time. So in our Facebook group, it's called the Momentum Monday Discussion Group. Go inside there, find the link to the audio book or the actual PDF version, the e-version of the book. It's amazing. And Lynette, so thank you for redefining what the Slight Edge really is, because some people are just joining us. So it is those small, simple things done consistently over a period of time. Bishop, I love what you talked about when you talked about how the slight edge principle impacts relationships. You talked about you can build it, or it can find a demise happening in the relationship, all because of the small things that are being done or not being done. So for me, Bishop, the slight edge principle is about being intentional. A lot of times we operate haphazardly in life and even in our relationships, even our marriages, but guess what? Even with our children. We want our children to think certain things and to believe certain ways, but we operate or we believe it's going to happen on its own. So I decided to apply the slight edge principle to my children and how we spend time together by being intentional. So we started something called Morning University. So every morning when I take them to school, me and my husband share this responsibility. When I'm on the commute taking them to school, I've turned it into Morning University, and that's my opportunity to intentionally put something in them spiritually or otherwise, right? So they call it Jesus music. I might put on, quote, unquote, my Jesus music, right? And they're like, okay, Mom, we're going to listen to Jesus music. Yes, because I'm putting something in your spirit and in your soul, right? But sometimes I may put on one of my Tony Robbins or, one of my inspirational videos they can listen to have them think about something. And then we talk about a lesson. Michelle, last week one of the lessons was power of confession. I gave the example on Facebook with my daughter. I would say, how are you this morning? She would say, tired. And every morning when I said, how are you? She would say, I'm tired. And I said, Jordan, you've got to change your confession. Why? Because she's executing the slight edge principle even right now at 12 years old. And if every day her confession is tired, guess what she's always going to be? She's going to be tired. And so I said, now, I didn't ask you how you feel. I said, how are you? And now her response is, I'm great. Why? Because she decides to be great, because God decided to wake her up this morning, and she has a purpose in life. And so one of the ways I'm applying the slight edge principle to my children is Morning University. It's by being intentional. And, Bishop, you talked about the marriage. Me and my husband decided that every year we would go to a marriage retreat. Why? Because we're being intentional, because we understand the slight edge principle can work for us or against us. So, Lynette, I would say this morning that the slight edge principle is about, 1, being intentional. 2, it's about initiating something new. And 3, it's about being present every time you're in that relationship. Lynette?
Oh, my goodness, Jill, you hit those 3 points, and that is so true. Being intentional. How are we showing up in life? Are you being intentional? Are you being present in the moment? All those things have an effect on the other person, and it will affect your relationships. And remember, that these things that we've discussed so far, they're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. Michelle, jump on in the conversation. What specific things can we do to make the slight edge work for us, or how do the things work against us?
Well, 2 things that I'm going to give and then throw it back to the team. But one of the things is really identifying what it is that you're trying to do. And just do that. Oftentimes, and I gave my personal example, sometimes I'm always reaching to the finish line and not taking advantage or honoring the pennies or honoring the steps in the process to get to that desired outcome. Then the second thing, we have to water what we're doing. Oftentimes, like today on a Monday, we're getting the information, we're getting inspired, we're getting instructions, and then it will dwindle throughout the day or throughout the week. But what we have to do is be committed to it, be committed to watering the very thing, the small thing that we're doing. Like Jill said, the kids that in her Morning University, which is just awesome, Jill just come up with titles. It's just like water that flows. The Morning University she has. Now, she understands what she's doing for her children, but her children don't realize that just those moments in the car with her is going to prepare them for their tomorrow. So when they get our age, they're going to look back and say, Mom, remember the Morning University? And they're going to realize that those moments were preparing them, and they actually are applying those behaviors, those principles in their lives. So the thing is, 1, let's find out what is it that we're trying to do, not based off who we see, who we hear, because sometimes can alter really our true purpose, because we think, oh, if someone's doing, oh, I could do that, but then we never operating in our full purpose. So that's one. And number two, we have to water exactly what it is that we're doing. That's why I have the permanent marker. That's why I have the Play-Doh. That's why I have the right people in my circle. That's why I confess over the things that I'm doing, and that's why I bring people in to hold me accountable. So those two things that I have learned and I am applying to my life.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I love that. Folks, if you are just joining us, we are diving in and discussing the slight edge and your relationship. And I am, just reflecting on this conversation this morning. And, really at the end of the day, it's the little things, and we keep stressing that. It's the little things day by day that just add up over time. You wonder what creates an unshakable happiness in a relationship. You see people, you could just compare and contrast, and you now can understand it's the slight edge. It's those little things. We hear the quote all the time, it's the little things that count, right? So if it's just a good morning to someone consistently, if it's a kind word, if it's just listening, like Jill said, being intentional and being present. Bishop, I want to come back to you. What do you think is a barrier, though, to us building these strong relationships and understanding that the little things actually affect our outcomes?
And that's a great question. And what I would say is not understanding the difference between being busy and being productive. I would say that if we are too busy to nurture relationships, then we are too busy being unproductive. When I have two children, my oldest and my youngest are adopted. I have two, in fact, two of my children are adopted. I actually have three. But each of those kids came with their own experiences, both positive and negative, but both of them had very challenging early childhood. So they were damaged when they came to join our family. And one day I remember my oldest daughter, Danica, going to my office, taking my planner, writing her name on my planner, and saying, maybe now I get a chance to see my dad. She was being affected by the fact that I was making such an impact in our community. I was viewed as a community leader. I was a pastor of a congregation that was successful. And all this stuff I was successful at, but I was being a failure at being her dad. And she knew that people got appointments with me by getting on my calendar. And the way she sent the message to me that changed my life was by writing her name on my calendar so that she could have quality time with her dad. And so what that inspired was a daddy-daughter day that I started doing for my kids. And Danica is now 36 years old, and I still do daddy-daughter days with her. Because in that time, she has my undivided attention. It's her agenda that we talk about. I'm able to speak life into her and also have her share her struggles and challenges with me. And I found that one little thing, making room for her in my life strategically and consistently, and now she is an entrepreneur, owns her own beauty salon, and she and her husband have adopted their own child. And I see that they are doing some of the same things that I did with her in terms of conveying how important that relationship is. So it's very, very important that we intentionally be present in the moment with the ones that we're in relationship with if we want those relationships to be successful. Lynette?
Bishop, you just brought up something. You hit home with me on that. We're talking about, folks, the Slight Edge Principle. You're here on Momentum Mondays, and we're talking about how it impacts relationships. Now, typically when we talk about the Slight Edge Principles, we're talking about how it impacts your business, how it impacts your goals, how it impacts your dreams. But today we're talking about how it impacts relationships, the things that matter most in life. And, Bishop, I had a moment like that one day, too. I was actually sitting on the floor playing some board game with my son, CJ. And at the time, I think he might have been maybe 6 or 7. And he had his head down, so all I could see was the top of his head, and he was playing with some video game. And I called his name a couple times because it was his time to make the next move in the game. And he didn't respond. So I called his name again. He didn't respond, and he didn't look up. About the 5th time, I went over to touch him, I heard the Lord speak to me, and he said, that is how he sees you. And that was such a moment for me because his head was down. I felt so disconnected from him. He was not responding, even though I was right there. He was not present. But that is, in actuality, what I have been doing to my children, coming home, being on the phone, always working. Even though I'm in the room, in my mind I'm thinking I'm home, I still was not present. That moment changed my life. And so now when they come into the room, and this is a Slight Edge work, and Jordan says, Mom, how come you always mute the TV when I walk in the room? Or how come you always turn the TV off when I walk in the room? And I say, because I want you to have my undivided attention. That's the Slight Edge, right? Because that is building confidence, building the relationship, and making them feel empowered versus the other way. So, Lynette, back to you.
Wow, yes, Jill, that's awesome. You know, it's just amazing because after hearing, you know, your testimony, Jill, it's something how we take each day for granted. You know, I reflect back on just the relationships I've had with individuals who are no longer with us, you know, and I look at how much I miss opportunities to strengthen relationships or build relationships, thinking that, oh, I'll do it next week. You know, I'll spend time with that person or a little more time next week and they're not here. So, you know, I love the fact that you said, you know, be present. You know, give that person your undivided attention. You know, what is it going to hurt, right? So I want to bring in Michelle or Danita for any final words. We're running up against the 8 o'clock hour. So, Michelle, do you have any final words on the Slight Edge and how we can strengthen our relationship?
The only thing I have at this time, Danita, is that we need to recognize the small things are really the big things. And I think Jill and Bishop really told the story that it's just the little things that we need to do to make sure that everyone is connected in our relationships and we are connected to them.
Awesome. And Danita, do you have any final words? How can we have the Slight Edge work for us in building our relationships with our friends, our family, our spouse, you know, and not take each day for granted, each moment for granted?
Well, I think part of it is that, you know, for me, that Slight Edge is, you know, being in a community where you are successful, but not forgetting your home-based community. And so with Thanksgiving coming up, really just be intentional about planning on how to show love, how to encourage, and how to push your own family to a higher mark, and how to get their Slight Edge started before the 2016 year. So, you know, just the power of learning how to operate on purpose, even within your home and your family. So I'm excited.
Awesome. You know, folks, the future of every relationship you have is a choice, and it's always in our hands. So the key, I find, is to just make the choice and keep making it. You know, that's that ripple effect. Jill or Bishop, do you have any final words before we wrap up the call today?
Bishop, I want to leave a question on everybody's heart, just for consideration. If we don't have time to build successful relationships, where are we going to find the time to repair the ones we damage?
Oh, Bishop.
Hashtag moment. Bishop, repeat that. That's a hashtag moment. Okay, Bishop, okay. One more time.
Okay. If we don't have time to build successful relationships, where are we going to find the time to repair the ones we damage?
Oh.
That's heavy, Bishop. That's so powerful, because that is a Slight Edge principle. We always see, Bishop, the Slight Edge is working, right, every single day around the clock. And if we're too busy building relationships, we're either building or something is breaking. But there is no neutral when it comes to the Slight Edge. And so what I hear you saying, Bishop, is be intentional on building that relationship. And it comes in different forms, right, Bishop? It comes in many different ways.
Absolutely. Just real quickly, there are some kids at our church who are in foster care, and this one woman It's the foster mother for all these kids. And every single time they see me, they all literally run up and they jump into my arms, and because I started out giving them hugs when I first met them. They call my name and they just run to me. Now, what I've discovered is they all came out of abusive background. Now, I don't have a lot of time because usually I'm going up getting ready for the Bible study or the service or whatever it is. But the 30 seconds that I take, and there's 5 of them, and that 30 seconds is divided over all 5. So that's basically 6 seconds per child. But each one of them become the most important person in their 6 seconds. And that has meant the world to them. And now I see it spreading with other members of the church. They are also loving on these kids and so forth. So I don't know what it's going to take for them to overcome their abusive past. But if I can add 6 seconds of affirmation, then I know that it's going to make a difference if I do that over a period of time.
And Bishop, let me tell you, you have hit it right there on the nail, because that is the truth. When you come from that damaged background, when you come from that other side of the track, most of them just want someone to reach back on purpose and just acknowledge them, give them purpose, give them a reason, give them hope again. And so I think you have just nailed that slight edge to perfection, because so many times we dismiss or just walk by and we don't understand the power of hello. We don't understand the power of I love you. We don't understand the power of touch. And so thank you for being intentional in your 6 seconds with those 5 children. And most of us don't understand. We do it with children, but we miss it with adults, because there are a lot of adults that are 60 who need that 6 seconds of hope, touch, and love. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Love it, love it, love it. Lynette, this is amazing, young lady.
I'm telling you, folks, we are at the 8 o'clock hour, but don't fret. We will have our after call. I am going to open up the lines, but before I do that, I just want to say to Bishop, Danita, Jill, and Michelle, you guys are just amazing, and I appreciate your being intentional every Monday morning on this call. When I open up the lines, I want everyone to declare, I am intentional and I am present.
I am
intentional.
Hey, as we begin to start our after call, hey, Bishop, I really, really need you to continue to talk about the point that you made, because it's excellent and I think it's so relevant for us this morning. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Absolutely, Michelle. What I understand is every relationship that we deem important requires our attention, it requires our affection, and it requires our emotional investment. And to the extent that we do those things, even in small portions over sustained periods of time, we're going to feed those relationships with the kind of nutrition that it takes to make them healthy and successful. Conversely, if we withhold those things or we neglect to provide those things, we won't see it instantly. But over a period of time, we're going to start seeing distance in those relationships. We're going to start seeing emotional detachment. We're going to start seeing a disconnect. And so relationships are very, very curious creatures, because we don't immediately see the impact that we're having by our actions or inaction, but they are pronounced and sometimes they are permanent. So my advice would be to not neglect something that you will want to enjoy over a long period of time, and also feed it intentionally just a little bit over that long period of time, and then that's going to be something you can rest in and enjoy for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Relationships are important because no man is an island, according to the book.
I agree, Bishop. And, oftentimes, and I posted this last week, oftentimes we talk from the place of, being hurt and being disappointed. But sometimes we are the cause of that hurt, and I can clearly say that over my lifetime that I have made some bad choices in some relationships where I may have offended or hurt someone, and I had to go back and restore that, because we always say we treat people like the way we want to be treated, but sometimes we really don't. We really don't. So your point spoke volumes to me. I'm not looking necessarily to build new relationships. I know they come based upon just growing and being open to that, but I know that in order for me to be successful, I need to look back and make sure the relationships I have or had are well mended and there's nothing else out there. Hey, Jill, do you have any feedback with that?
Absolutely, and I want to say, folks, this is officially the after call, so this is the time where you actually get to chime in. I know we have some listeners this morning, so if you'd like to participate and make a comment or ask a question, all you have to do is hit *6. That will unmute your line and allow you to participate live with us. That's the neat thing about the after call. And so I'll just say, you guys, that I love the Slight Edge book. I say it all the time. It's literally changed my life. But I would tell you that a lot of times I really just used it for business. I haven't necessarily thought of it in regards to relationships and how it can impact your life. But now I do, since I'm reading this now, I think now for the third or fourth time. And it's so important that we are intentional, and it's so easy to say, but we all get busy. What keeps us from being intentional? We're busy. By the time we get home, we're exhausted. But there are certain things we have to do to preserve those relationships, because there is no neutral in a relationship. Either it's going forward or backwards. I'll talk about me and my husband. We watched this movie called The Story of Us. It's an amazing movie. It's an older movie. I think Meg Ryan is in it. And it's a movie about this couple that's going through changes, and they're on their way through divorce. And one thing they talked about, Bishop, was they had stopped touching. Now, you talk about the slight edge. The first thing they noticed was that they stopped touching. There wasn't a brush at night when they went to sleep. There was no holding hands, and it wasn't intentional. They had just gradually stopped touching. And the lack of the touch began to lead to so many other things that were lacking. And that movie, me and my husband saw the movie when we were actually engaged. And as busy as we are, one thing that I noticed we always do, Bishop, as we talk about the slight edges, we always reach out and touch. It might be holding hands in the car, and the kids go, oh, my God. He may rub my shoulder as I'm washing the dishes, or, I might reach out and stroke his arm. But the touch, that's just a small thing, the small slight edge step that we take to stay connected. Bishop, does that make sense?
That absolutely makes sense, Jill, and we don't understand how much can be conveyed through a touch. It would take hundreds of words sometimes to say what a simple touch can say. You can say by a touch that I love you. You can say by a touch, I'm with you. You can say by a touch, it's okay. Because sometimes people are feeling down on themselves because of a perceived failure, and just a simple touch can say your failure is not fatal. So the touch is underrated in terms of what it can achieve in a person's life, especially in the life of a child whose communication is not as sophisticated as an adult. The child does not have the attention span to allow us to say all the words that are necessary to ease the pain or ease the discomfort they're experiencing. But, man, I tell you, if we put a hug on them, no words are necessary. Yeah.
I love it. You and Danita were talking earlier about the touch when it came to those children at your church. And then Danita talked about how even adults need that touch. And we're talking about the slight edge, folks. You're here on Momentum Monday, the after call. If you would like to participate, feel free to go ahead and chime in by hitting *6. That will unmute your line. Lynette.
Jill?
Yes. Danita.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, sweetie.
One of the things I wanted to talk about is that everybody remembers the Obama hand pound with Michelle. And a lot of people couldn't understand, but it was the power of touch. They made it clear in front of the whole nation that I got you. That's what she made it clear of. And, and so understanding, creating a love language, I think, is something that the Slight Edge has taught too, and helped me understand that even with my students, I met with my group, my original group of Lakeside ladies. So we have 17 years in. Those girls have evolved. But one of the things when we went around the table and we talked, and a lot of them come from difficult backgrounds and are successful now, but one of the things they talked about is that for the first time in education, Anita Dorch and I touched them. We hugged them daily. We even when we had to reaffirm or, let them know in their behavior it wasn't right, but the power of our touch with them was something that the girls spoke on. And I don't think we realize and understand, like you said, words don't have to be spoken sometimes. If you can just hug me when I'm unlovable, and show me that you still got me. It was something that really, really went to another level with those girls. And after 17 years of not seeing them or on a daily but still talking, and them bringing that forth, it really helped me propel in this next level with the college students on the power of touch. So it is an important piece that I think the world sometimes neglects.
Absolutely. And you know what, the slightest principle, we're talking about how it impacts relationships and the power of touch, but sometimes it's also about the power of being seen.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes people just want to be seen. Right?
Yeah.
I see you. Sometimes people need to be acknowledged, and that's what I'm saying when my kids walk in the room and I have my head buried down into my laptop. I look up all the way so they can see my full face, and I mute everything. So they know I see you, right? I mean, Zanita, I was at a gas station a couple of weeks ago, and I was in there buying some coffee or something in the morning, and this little boy and his mom walked in, and he kept saying, "Mom, can I have a hot dog?" And she's like, "I don't know, honey. We'll have to see." And I saw her counting her change out, and I don't know what she bought, but they ended up leaving out. And he kept saying, "Mommy, but I'm hungry. Can I buy a hot dog?" And she said, "No, we're not going to be able to do it." And so they left out. And so as I was paying for my purchases, I bought a hot dog, and I walked around to see if I could find them because I didn't know had they walked or had they driven up. And I saw them around the back of the building. They went back to sit down and huddle up in a blanket. And so I walked over, and I gave her the hot dog. And she just stared at me, and she didn't know what to say. He obviously took the hot dog and began to eat it quickly. But I saw them, right? I want to make it a habit of seeing people. Sometimes people just need to be seen. That's the Slight Edge, too. Sometimes the Slight Edge operates with people you don't know, So it's important to be present. Now, normally, Janita, I'm on the phone when I'm in the gas station. I'm doing a million things. I normally would not have even been aware enough to have heard the conversation she was having with her son. But that particular day, I was aware and present in the moment. And so I'm trying to practice being present even outside of being with my family, even other places, because you never know when God wants to use you. Is that right, Janita?
Absolutely. And I think, that's the part where, sometimes I try to tell people, especially when you're a leader, people sometimes know you and you don't know them. I'm finding that out. Like, I don't know them, but they know us by name or by some of the things that we're doing in the community. And I agree with you, Jill, the power of hello and just, I see you, and it's important to people. And so one of the things my mom tried to tell me, I used to wonder at Macy's and all those places where they will tell you their name. And it's funny to me because in a restaurant, one time my aunt said, the waitresses always seem to respond to you because I call them by their name. I get their name first. I'm sorry, what was your name? And so throughout the conversation when they're serving me, I don't just say ma'am or miss. I really work hard to say Shelley or whatever. And it makes a difference, Jill, when you say their name intentionally and on purpose. And it's a love language. It becomes a connection. And so I agree with you, Jill, that people do want to be seen. That's powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do we have any callers who want to chime in as we begin to wrap up our Momentum Monday after call? With any callers, you just hit *6. That will unmute your line. This is the time that you get a chance to chime in. I'm loving this topic today. We're normally talking about goals, and you guys, we have 39 days left. 39 days left until the end of the year. Is that someone chiming in? Okay, we have 39 days left to the end of the year, and we're normally talking about how to get it done and how to apply these principles to your goals. But I'm so glad that today we're talking about what really matters. You know, I mean, we're living in a day and time, guys, where we're burying people who are 40 and below, right, who are 40 and younger. And it's important that we pause for a minute to appreciate the relationships and the people that are around us. So, Bishop, do you have any closing comments as we wrap up our after call this morning?
Yes, actually, I do, Jill. Every one of us, you mentioned that every day people have been buried who are 40 and under, and I know of two people who over the next 2 days are going to be buried, and both of them are under 30. One was shot 8 times and was violently killed. The other one died in his sleep of a suspected massive heart attack. And at those ages, nobody expects them to leave. And so one of the things I want to just leave with the callers is it's better to live in fulfillment than to live in regret. We live in fulfillment when we know that we have spent the time and made the investment in the right places. And when we're at the end of our own journey, we can die peacefully knowing that we have accomplished what we need to accomplish with the people that we should have accomplished it with. On the other hand, if we on our deathbed, we may have spent so much time becoming successful in our businesses or in our jobs that we neglected relationships with our family. And if we're on our deathbed, the people who are going to gather around us are not going to be our co-workers. They're not going to be our business partners, but for the most part, they're going to be our family or not, depending on how we've treated them as we made this journey. So it's best to live in fulfillment than to live in regret, especially in those final hours.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I think I would like to end the call today with us kind of sharing what we're grateful for. I think it's appropriate. We're going into the Thanksgiving season, and I will tell you that my confession every morning is, when people say, how are you doing? I am amazing. I am fantastic. I am incredible, because I'm so thankful that God chose to allow me to rise this morning. Bishop, you just talked about two people who are not going to wake up again. And, I mean, it's all around us. Every person on the call has somebody they can mention that has now gone on beyond this life. And so this morning, I am grateful that I am sober and aware of what's happening in my life and that God has blessed me and my family with health. And with health, I'm just going to stop right there, that he has blessed us with health. So that's what I am thankful for today. And I'd like my co-host to just share a little bit about what they're thankful for as we transition off the call this morning. So, Bishop, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, Jill, I'm just thankful for the gift of family. I think of all the things that make me wealthy, that make me successful, and everything else can be replaced if I lose it. But this gift of family that I have, I treasure that more than anything else. And to know that God first accepted me into his family gives me reason to understand why the family that I have is so important to me.
I love that. Danita.
Today, Jill, I'm thankful that I'm gaining understanding of what true love is. It's not conditional. And losing everything on May 3rd in my fire really, really, really showed me my community family. And so I am so grateful, as Bishop said, that I have a loving family. We have some dysfunction and we have some function. But the one thing that I've always known is that I'm loved, and they are. But this year I learned of a community family, that when I was down to nothing, they all came up with something. And so I am grateful this year that there is more than corn in Indiana.
Love it. Lynette.
Wow. This topic today is one of my favorites because I really reflect on the relationships just in my life. And I'm so grateful for this opportunities to strengthen and rebuild relationships. I have 3 children, and I'm so protective of our relationship. And I'm just honored that every opportunity God sees fit for me to wake up for however long I'm going to be on the planet to just pour into my children or just have an effect on anyone that I encounter. I don't want the sun to rise and set without having an impact on someone, whether it's a smile, a kind word, or anything. So I love the intentional part because, there was a time where I wasn't like that, and I see how different my life was. But I'm just honored and thankful for, just another opportunity to get it right, another opportunity to have an effect on someone. And like Bishop said, there's nothing like your family. We are going into the holiday season, and this is where we hopefully will have an opportunity to spend time with our immediate family and our extended family. And so, and friends and loved ones. So this is just an opportunity to just be intentional. Take these last 39 days, like you said, Jill, and, make it a habit to be intentional about rebuilding, repairing, restoring, and just strengthening the relationships that we have in our lives.
Absolutely. Shelley?
I am grateful for God's unconditional love, and I say that because I don't always measure up and I don't always do the right things, but His unconditional love towards me is such a great example of what I need to do and show to the ones that are in my family, my friends, and in my circle, that I always have a heart of having God's grace and mercy towards others, and that really makes me successful, and it allows me to always be humble when I may be offended or when someone offends me, to show unconditional love, because that's what God has done for me, and I am so grateful for that.
Amen. Amen to the unconditional love and the daily grace and mercy that we are allowed because of His goodness. Thank you for sharing that. So, and I want to encourage all the listeners on the line this morning, go ahead into the Facebook group and our Momentum Monday discussion group page, and why don't you list what you're thankful for? As we go into this Thanksgiving holiday season, we have such, if you are alive today and you can hear, if you're alive, I'm going to put it right there, then you have something to be thankful for. I just posted something. I'm going to end with this. Today I was going to complain, but God woke me up this morning. Then I realized I had nothing to complain about. That's how I'm living my life moving forward. We are greatly blessed. So excited to have you guys join us every single Monday. We'll be here back on Monday morning right here at 7:25 at Momentum Mondays, where your Mondays will never be the same. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next Monday.
Have a wonderful week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy